Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much in being part of this podcast as well, together with the panelists. Again, I will reiterate that we must keep talking, we must keep discussing about the Gaza crisis. Once we stop doing that, people will forget. So your attendance at this type of solidarity meeting, at any discussions, at any podcast is extremely important. I think we see all the rallies in London, in New York. We see so many people out there. In Malaysia, I'm not so sure why we don't really see that many. We saw a lot at the beginning. I think in October, November, December, there was a lot of passion. But as time went by, I feel a lot of people feel burnout. A lot of people feel tired about this Gaza crisis. And a lot of people feel despair. They don't even want to switch the TV on. I mean, or your social media on. You don't want to look at your phone because you're going to see dead bodies. You're going to see rubble. We have a glimmer of hope with the ceasefire a week ago, but then now we are back into despair with the ludicrous assertion by Trump that they will take over Gaza and build condominiums and have a resort over there. So we will keep the fire going. We will keep talking about it. So today, there will be part of it. The theme of this podcast is Voices for Gaza, Hope After the Ceasefire. I will introduce the panel, which is Dr. Shahridan Fathil. He is an anaesthetist, and he has been in Mission 3 into Gaza. He was there for about 3 weeks. We also have Radzi Jamaludin, who is the EXCO of MERCY Malaysia. He is also our logistics core volunteer and emergency medical team volunteer. And he also went into Gaza, and he was stuck in Gaza for about 6 weeks. So we will hear his experience on that. And we have Masniza Mustafa, who is the emergency medical team coordinator, who was the key person in sending people into and outside of Gaza. We went in under United Nations, under WHO, without which we as Malaysians could never enter Gaza because our country, Malaysia, does not recognize Israel. So our passports are not valid over there. Although we do know that people can go in and out as tourists, but as in an official capacity, it's nearly impossible. So we also thank the WHO for allowing us to go into Gaza to help the people there. Right. So I'm now going to begin with Dr. Shahridan Fathil. I'm going to ask his experience when he was in Gaza, what he felt working with the people in there, and also seeing the patients in there. Dr. Shahridan?
Thank you very much, Prof. Shalimar. Just before I start answering the question, probably a bit of a perspective. I was part of Team 3, which happened somewhere in the middle of April last year, so just after Raya, after Eid. And it was, I was with the team for about just less than 2 weeks, but the total travel time was coming to about 3 weeks with transit into Gaza, through Cairo and so on. This was before the Rafah incursion, so which Team 4, Mr. Radzi experienced. So most of the infrastructure in the Rafah site. So we went with EMT, as pointed out by Prof. Shalimar. So we were stationed at a Kuwaiti hospital, which is actually just a few kilometers from the Rafah border crossing. So it was technically not, it was very south of the Gaza Strip. The hospital that it was actually a charity hospital, not part of the Ministry of Health infrastructure, but during the Gaza war, so there were a lot of volunteer organizations, humanitarian organizations, which were attached to actually the Kuwaiti hospitals. That's where there were a lot of donations coming to in terms of equipment. So the work that we did mainly were actually
equipment coming in, right?
Yes, equipment coming in.
Although people talk about there's sanctions, Israel not allowing things in, but there were things coming in.
Yes, there were things that were coming in. I think, of course, there may be some restrictions in terms of some equipment in the fear of, that the equipment might be used to produce weapons, but generally most of the items, at least what we wanted to bring in MERCY Malaysia, we brought in. We were functioning as somewhat of a secondary capacity, secondary hospital. So we were seeing we were doing cesarean sections because there were not many hospitals that were able to do that. So the obstetricians were coming from other hospitals assisting us. So all these hospitals that were still standing, and the Ministry of Health of Gaza doctors were also kind of allocated. There's a roster that they come and do cesarean sections, and other. We were pretty strong with urology because the head, the mudir, the hospital director, was actually a urologist. So, but also we were seeing war wounded, war injuries, and what the unique thing is that most of these war injuries are probably partially treated, so they are not. They may have implant, but it's probably a malunion or a non-union, and also they may have external fixators, but they're poorly. I think most of them were actually put in, most likely in a hurry. So I think we were doing quite a bit of that. On top of that, so these were the technically cold cases, but we also were involved, at least when we were there. We were involved in about 5 or 6 of mass casualty incidents, so we can hear the bombs when the bombs drop, and sometimes the bombs drop about.
Can you tell the audience what is a mass casualty incident?
Basically, a mass casualty incident is, as the name, it's a mass casualty. So, an incident which creates a lot of casualty, and it may actually cause the whatever functioning. The services that we can provide to be stretched, and this is where we are probably. It happens usually most of the time at night, and we were not kind of rostered, but we were called in to assist the response. So there was a makeshift emergency department, and these victims of the bomb blast victims or airstrike bomb blast victims do come in and brought in by ambulance. Of course, we had to do quite a bit of triage. Meaning that some patients, even though they are still breathing or they are still alive technically, but we probably don't want to. A classic example I gave, we had a significant chest trauma. So the patient was still alive, but because it was actually a penetrating chest trauma, so I think they decided that probably it's not best to transfer the patients anywhere else because of the fact that it was a severe injury, and they probably, by the time they transferred, they couldn't do anything much.
So the patient was somewhat allowed to die. How did the family react to that?
So we, of course, being non-Arabic speakers, we kind of stayed away. It was a bit of a chaos, but I think when I did relay this to the hospital management, probably we need to control the crowd. But I think they want the whole incident to be kind of known to the world, so they kind of allowed family members or even the crowd around there to actually take videos. And I think it does. I think relating back to how this is different from the other Gaza wars, because of social media, particularly TikTok, when they're not censoring it. I think now the whole world is seeing, and it's actually streamed live throughout the world. I think that's another component of it, that actually all this is being seen in the world. So coming back to mass casualty incidents, so those that we can, those minor injuries we do take, for example, if there's significant laceration wound and things like that, when it involves major trauma involving the torso, when there's chest or abdominal trauma, we brought in some equipment, particularly ultrasound, so that this is a point of care systems where we can actually scan the abdomen and diagnose bleeding in the abdomen. So we diagnosed a few of that, not many, but they're still stable patients, but they are transferred to European Gaza at a particular point, because the tertiary hospital identified.
How do you think the medical personnel, they see all these serious injuries every day, day in, day out? Do you think they feel tired, or they feel sad, or are they always on the go?
I think there's an element, a lot of the work itself, but when you speak to them, they will say, oh, I've moved around with my family for 6 times, 7 times. I think there's also that component that we neglect. The work itself is stressful. It can cause a lot of grief and things like that. But even though, let's say, we in our environment, even though we deal with grief, but you go back, you can chill, you watch, and relax. But they may not have that luxury. So I believe, of course, but they're not very. At least when I was there, they're not very. I would say they don't tell so much about their sad stories. I think they're very resilient people, as what we have witnessed, at least online on the social media, and that doesn't come across as they don't come across as very sad. I think that the resilience is very unique. I'm not sure whether it's fate or whatnot, but as a people, another example I like to give is that I've anesthetized a child. I think it was, if I recall correctly, it was probably one of the orthopaedic injuries. And when it's a skull-going child, probably about 6-7 years old, and when you put IV cannulas in a child, and in our population, they will shout and scream. And this child was just giving your hand, and I was cannulating just like that without even giving local anesthetic. I think what is a trauma of putting a line compared to trauma seeing your family members being blown and things like that. So I think there's also that other component, that mental health issue, particularly, I think that needs addressing, particularly when we are, I think, going back, hopefully, and help them rebuild.
Okay. What about between your day job as an anaesthetist in Malaysia and the job in Gaza? Do you think there's some special set of skills that you should have?
Oh, okay. Of course, you need to be. There's the EQ bit and the IQ bit. So basically, I think you do need to be a bit more, I would say, versatile, because you do need to kind of, like, we were not only functioning as an anaesthetist or anesthesiologist, but I was also functioning as an emergency physician, because you need to kind of multitask, particularly in the mass casualty incidents. Also, I think there may be some resource limitation, even though when I went there, at least there were a lot of donated equipment. For example, there were card-based ultrasound and things like that, and a lot of things. But I think there's also this ability to actually work in slightly resource limited environment. But I think if we go now, when there's in this current devastation, definitely you do need to kind of able to work in that resource limited environment, and there's no comfort or minimal comfort, I would say. That is probably the EQ, but I think the IQ bit and things like that, you do need to kind of be able to function so that, for example, a classic thing not a classic, I think an essential skill of an anesthesiologist volunteering in this resource is actually regional anesthesia. I feel that you can actually provide anesthesia without actually having to put the patient to sleep. And this skill is probably not a general skill across the board. Hopefully, I believe the younger generation is probably have the skills, but this is something that I feel that is really important, particularly in very resource limited environment.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shahridan. We'll move to Radzi. So Radzi, you went in as a non-medical personnel, as a logistician, and also as team leader. So what are the main challenges that you faced during that period?
Well, it was quite an interesting challenge because we came in with a greenhorn team. Despite the challenges, despite the interesting journey that we had for that 1 month, the team stuck together. We stick together, and they trust the decision that I made. I guess in any crisis deployment, the biggest challenge is to get everyone to trust your team leader. So that would be the biggest challenge, not to have a second guessing, not to doubt. He may or he may not make the right decision, but in any crisis situation, I think we emphasize this over and over many times during our EMT training. There's no democracy in EMT. Just listen to your team leaders, because that's how we work. We don't have time to nego.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so I also, okay, we know that the doctors were doing their doctor work and the nurses doing their nursing work, but what were you doing in between?
Well, I didn't say this before. Some of my job was to do the housekeeping for the hospital. I was the cleaner.
Cleaner.
And we did, I was a storekeeper, helping them arrange stuff. And also at some point becoming a clown, to try to make the kids laugh and all that.
Okay, so cleaner, housekeeper, storage, clown, what else? So this is for those out there who want to volunteer perhaps.
And I do help with the crowd control, which I enjoy very much. But most importantly, my job was to prepare 3 steps ahead. All that what if, all the 3 steps ahead. If this happen, what shall we do? If this happen, what we will do? That has been like that every 3 hours, the what if. It was fun.
Yeah, in retrospect, it was fun, yeah. But not at that time, right? When we, his team was the team where they were, the Rafah invasion happened and the team was supposed to leave like 5 days later. But
We're supposed to leave on the 13th of April.
And the IDF invaded on the
6th of April.
Okay, 1 week earlier.
Yes.
Okay, and I recall that there was a lot of problems. There was all this WhatsApp going around, but you in there, I mean, you had bombs falling down outside the hospital door, right? And do you think you were going to die?
I always find it like interesting, So what do I do now? What do I do now? Not to say I wanted it to happen, but it's always that ability, the opportunity to learn, to absorb, and to menambahkan our kutub kana, all those experiences. The incident where the bomb landed right in front of the hospital, of course, everyone was scared. It wasn't easy to deal with because we were having lunch at that time and the hospital shook and the debris fly all over the hospital. And I mean, sadly, one of the hospital staff became a victim of the shrapnel. But other than that, we were okay. Everyone was worried. But somehow, if you remember Dr. Sohaib, this is the guy that with this, unique leadership skill, that able to put people back together and assure that this is the safest place to be at that time. Of course, some of us were thinking we should leave Gaza, we should leave. Of course, my role was to say that, no, we have to stick to the decision given. Anyway, there's no safe place in Gaza at that time. Anyway, right?
Yeah, but my question is, so did you think you were going to die?
Not really.
No, not really.
How do we say? Is the word acceptance. If it's going to be, it's going to be. Itu saja.
But you never thought you were going to die. I mean, maybe, but most likely not, right? Okay, that's interesting.
No, because we have the things that is those behind the scene people like us kan, because we have complete trust on the system, the information that said the hospital is safe. Despite all this worry that the surrounding being bombarded, but we have full trust that the hospital is safe.
Yeah, I think I would like to reiterate here that we were under the EMT or Emergency Medical Team Coordination Center, which is under WHO. So yes, IDF, they want to kill people, but they appear to want to kill Palestinians, but not international citizens. So there was our trust in the EMTCC, but some of the team members did not have that trust. They feel that, IDF can just bomb the hospital, but the point is, if IDF bombs outside the door, why is it that they can't bomb at the hospital, right? So logically you think, so they want to scare you, but but not they're not bombing the actual hospital because they don't want international problems. But still, you could have that shrapnel, right? You could still die from
Yep,
shrapnel.
yep. If we were on duty during that bombing,
Maybe you would have
Yeah.
died. Okay.
it just so happened we were having our lunch in our room.
There's always a higher force sometimes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Masniza. So we know that the health expectancy of the Gaza people before the October crisis was 72 years old. Now it is 63 years old. So what are the three major health challenges in Gaza? Or whatever health challenges.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Did not really expect that, but I just want to backpedal a little bit. I just want to bring everybody back here to last year. The first team that we sent in was actually on the February 22nd, 2024. Dr. Mafiz, you would agree. And I remember last year, 3 days before, today is February the 8th, and I remember collectively we made that decision to send the first team. I sent in the submission on February 5th, 2024. So today occasion is also very auspicious to what had happened last year around the same time. So back to your question. So 15 months have progressed from 75 years old life expectancy to 63 years old. I think perhaps I can only speculate, putting all the bombings or war injuries aside. I think one of the major contributor to the shortening of the life expectancy is probably the non-communicable diseases.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, I was about to. Thank you. So yes, for NCD or non-communicable diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, kidney disease, during the war, probably this medical condition were exacerbated by the length or the duration of the war. I'm just going to give an example here. If you have kidney disease, over time, the kidney disease progressed in a way that you would need dialysis. So when war was happening, there was no service of such, or probably you do not have access to the dialysis center to go in every 3 days a week to get your blood dialyzed. And that would create a condition where you have an overload of fluid in your system. So when you have that, your lungs and your heart are probably, for the layman's term, suffocate. Or you would have fluid in your lungs. So this condition will lead to death eventually if it's not treated. So perhaps that answers your question about the shortening of life expectancy.
So, because I remember at the beginning they were talking about surgery, trauma, orthopaedics, right? But now they're talking about sending teams who can deal with high blood pressure, with diabetes or kencing manis, with psychiatry issues. So they have changed from trauma to this physician, or we call medical related approach. Okay, and what about the our relationship with WHO? How easy or difficult it is to get teams to go in?
Yeah, I think you mentioned earlier that as Malaysians, we don't have a bilateral relationship with the Israeli government. So I can't say whether it's difficult or easy to go in, but I can say that it's really a tedious process. To get the first team to go in, number one, we had never done anything like that. Number two, you are going to send a team, Malaysian team, into a country that you have no knowledge about, no relationship about. So I would say that it's very tedious, and we were lucky because as a verified EMT or emergency medical team verified by the WHO, we have that extra capacity to actually go into Gaza where during peacetime we may not be able to do that, even though we are as a verified EMT team. So the process was very, for me, I can speak only for myself, it was very, very tedious. And I remember sitting on the edge of my seat every day thinking, if this is something that we should do, if I'm doing it right. For those who you don't know, you have to submit all your documents from your medical license to your CV to your passport, which we will compile and then send it over to KOGAT for them to verify
KOGAT
you.
Is the
KOGAT
IDF.
Go ahead. Yeah. So it's the IDF. KOGAT is something, Coordination
Commonwealth
Office
or something.
for Gaza, something. I'm not sure what it is. So we compiled everything at that time. The first team that we sent in was 6 people. So you can only imagine the paperwork. And
they don't accept mistakes, right?
They don't.
If there's a
They
small
keep-
mistake,
yeah.
they just send it back to you and say, sorry, you can't go in.
yeah, so so you submit the procedure is to submit 2 weeks before your intention of going in. So initially we submitted with the intention to go in on the 19th February 2024. And then a week later, we received the news that, is it possible for us to go in on the 21st instead? Okay, you have to remember, before we agree or disagree to this new date, the flight tickets were purchased. We have made accommodation, or we have sort of identified where to put all our items, or to bring what items to bring into Gaza in Cairo. So we have a base camp in Cairo. And again, like Shalimar was saying, I think leading to the 21st of February, I think I had to resubmit maybe more than 3 times. With every little mistake that you make, for example, I messed up someone's passport number. Instead of 3, I put 8. They would check it and then they would send it to me for me to fix it right there and then send it back over in the next 30 minutes. So these are the things that, this is the tedious thing. So you really have to focus on what you're doing. You have to make sure that the email is correct. One tiny little mistake means that you will jeopardize the whole entire mission. So having that kind of responsibility rested on my shoulder, and if you know what kind of person I am, I was highly under stress at that time.
Okay.
So it's not an easy task.
Thank you, Mas, for that.
Thank you, Mas.
Okay. Yeah, this behind the scenes. It sounds easy, but actually it's very, very tedious. And I think IDF wants to just find mistakes so that you don't go in. All right. So back to Dr. Shahridan. How can the global community best support Gaza's healthcare system now?
Okay, that's. I think I do believe the political will is important, and how we as just lay people or healthcare workers or international NGOs can at least help. Of course, if this ceasefire holds and eventually we can assist, so that means that we can send teams and things like that. But prior to that, I think we also have a role to influence the people around us as well. Hopefully that our social circle not only encompasses the local population, but people from outside, and particularly healthcare workers. We through our networks we do have people living in the Western world, and I think as everybody have witnessed, US will play a significant role in what is happening and what will happen. And I think it's also important that we try to change that. I think some of us are also part of this group, Doctors Against Genocide. I think it's they do kind of reach out to most doctors throughout the world. I think this is another avenue that we can help to influence, because they're based in America, and they approach the politicians, do protests and things like that. If we that will kind of hopefully change. I believe, even though I haven't read any studies and things like that, but I think the in a general way that the opinion has changed, and I think
I know you wrote 2 articles, right, in
international
journals?
So basically, I think that is mainly our local journal. and did I not write with you or something?
That one hasn't been published.
So, but I think that is mainly for the local audience, because I'm an editor in the Malaysian Journal of Ethnology. We wrote an article just to highlight a bit of my experience, as well as the point of destruction of healthcare facilities and killing of healthcare workers, which is actually a war crime.
Don't you feel that half of our Malaysian population perhaps are not really aware of this? I mean, it's kind of, this Gaza thing is seen as a Muslim type of fight or struggle, or you don't feel that?
Yeah, maybe prior to this Gaza war and the current conflict for the past 15 months or so, there may have been, I would say, less attention by probably certain segment of our population, but I think I would like to think, but of course I haven't seen studies or surveys and things like that, but because of the fact that at least now in the Western population there's a big change of opinion, at least, and we're saying it a bit more pro-Palestinian instead of the pro-Zionist, the other way around, or people who are in the middle and they don't care. But I think I like to believe, looking at social media and things like that, that there has been a shift in the opinion, and because of the fact that, again, coming back to why it has changed, because of the broadcasting, streaming live on social media, particularly on TikTok, where it's not censored. I like to think that way. So I think there's a lot of now, I would say, will, at least in the public, to change, to do something to assist. So coming back to your question before I shift, I think if we are able to go in, and hopefully we will, I think we need to strategize with EMT, CC, to see what we can assist. But I like to think, this is something I might want to bring, because we know we have an Indonesian hospital in Gaza. I think we have the expertise, and we have, the will of the Malaysian people. We should establish our own hospital, at least, with the expertise. And I think, I know there was, PMX gave an announcement that Malaysia wants to assist and things like that. I'm not going to go into the politics of it, but I think we probably, our people itself is very generous, and we can raise enough money to actually assist. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Shahridan. I think that's a good thing, King. However, Radzi, do you think, look at how many people are here, 30 people, for solidarity for Gaza. Malaysians are maybe known to be warm and helpful, but maybe Malaysians are a bit scared to sacrifice themselves to go even to Gaza. We have so much problems trying to get volunteers to go in. They keep saying, oh, we can't get 1 month's leave, we can't get 1 month's leave. But Indonesians can get 4 months leave, 5 months leave. There's the passion. But the Malaysian is like, anak, bini, suami, sekolah, kerja. What do you think?
Pandai tanya soalan ni.
Kena buat macam ni.
Okay. But just a quick answer from the question to Mas. Her challenge was not only processing, but also to transmit the data, to transmit the news. Because when our team was, the exit was, our team was quite unique, remember? And by the time we have to process all those data, we had this on and off internet. So if you remember, with all the Garmin, so I want to put on record, I would like to say so much thank you to people like Arwah, Fathil, Khairul, and also Mas, that helped so much in facilitating the communication. There were times when there were no internet the whole day in Gaza, which we know there will be bombing for the next day. And so that's how, and because of that, we have to plan all our communication accordingly. So for that, thank you. So back to your question. If we were to ask general Malaysian, I'm sure there's a lot of people who wanted to go Gaza. The NGOs, the no-NGOs. But then the challenge will be the support system. Number one, at personal level, the readiness. It's not just the heart, the mind and the ability. The ability, remember my quote, hati kena kering. Just go there and do your job. don't carry all this jihad mentality. We're going there as humanitarian workers. Stop at that.
I guess that's basically what you mean as a professional.
Yes, personal. Number 2, family. Would your family be comfortable for you to join? Kan? That would be also another challenge. And then we're talking about livelihood lah. The income,
livelihood,
pendapatan. So these are the multiple layer of challenges that we have to deal with. Individual have to deal with. If we were asked 20 Malaysians, I guess maybe we have 15, 16, 17. Okay, I want to go. But if we will start to filter the readiness, personal level, family level, income level, institutional, employment of that. So that's where the challenge start to come in.
So from 20 down to 15 and then down to 1. Yeah. I think that's the challenge we have.
Yes.
Maybe what we can do is just send money to NGOs or other institutes over there in Gaza itself to help the reconstruction, and perhaps let others build, or people who are in the community itself. MERCY Malaysia, we are still having programs in Gaza. We have Dr. Hassan, our how shall we say, our health coordinator there. He's been with us for the last 15 years, I think, with MERCY. Dr. Hassan and Dr. Khamis originally, but now it's only Dr. Hassan. So we send money over to him so that he continues our projects over there. We have mobile clinics over there run by local Palestinian doctors and nurses. And we also have food distribution as well, and the rehabilitation and physiotherapy services. So I think we have 2 minutes left. So perhaps I'll ask the audience, is there somebody who would like to say anything, with regards to the topics or the issues that I've raised just now? Any burning comments that you want to make? Do you feel that Malaysians are really they want to support, but I think they just feel like they want to just click a button and support by saying like, or support by giving 200 ringgit or something like that. But to actually go in, that is another level of dedication and commitment.
I just want to add to what you're saying and what Radzi was saying. I think you can contribute in your own unique way. It doesn't have to be all guns blazing going into Gaza. What you're doing now is actually to also create awareness. If you are avoiding a certain product, keep doing that. That's your contribution. Nobody knows, but Allah knows, so that's good. Don't need to be all...
I think that's very true. BDS, the boycott, divestment and sanction, it's extremely good. If you can't hurt them by bullets and all that, but what you can do is hurt them by economic power.
Yes.
And the rest of the world, 7 billion people, is a big economic power.
Just so you know what we're doing, like avoiding a certain product is not just you. Collectively, you can actually move mountains. So keep doing that. I think I'm doing that myself. So we all do it together.
Booking.com, Airbnb, McDonald's, Nike. I think there are a lot of websites that you can check. And a lot of the household products that we normally buy are actually under the BDS. So you can check on the website and see which items to not buy. And I think social media is the way to go. You need to retweet, share all these videos or Twitter or Instagrams of which are against the Zionist project, and that is also another big way, and that is perhaps the only thing which is moving the world view away from the Zionist view to the pro-Palestine view. Anything else anybody would like to say? Yes, please. Thank you. Somebody from the audience. Can someone give him a mic?
Okay. Assalamualaikum. Boleh dengar saya? Boleh kan? Okay. Tadi kita ada bercerita tentang volunteers who are willing to go to Gaza, Tapi you know, as a public service officer, there is so many things that we need to consider before we agree instead of preparedness. So is there any ways for public service to join, to go to Gaza in a way that we do not put away our job and to make sure that we are still in a way which is we can still work in our country. So, thank you.
Maybe I can answer that. Okay. Before I currently work in private, but before that I did work in HUKM for a few years, and I think the first few missions that I went to basically for natural disasters was actually as a employee, a government servant, as employee. I think we do have a directive that we can go for
there's
two weeks.
Circular JPA, Jabatan Perkhidmatan Awam Perkeliling, which says that with Mercy Malaysia you can get 2 minggu cuti tanpa rekod. Can I speak bahasa Malaysia?
Arahan 20.
Okay.
Arahan 20.
Okay, Arahan 20. But it's only 2 weeks. But to go into Gaza, you need at least 4 weeks working days. I mean, maybe 3 weeks working and 1 week to go in, 1 week to go out, and another 1 week extra in case you are stuck in there. So that's about 6 weeks. And therefore, if you want to use that cuti tanpa rekod 2 weeks, but then you need 4 weeks cuti tanpa gaji or something like that. So it's actually very difficult. And maybe cuti tu you can get, but your ketua jabatan will not let. First ketua jabatan, then pengarah.
I think your superiors need to support you. Even though you are eligible for that, if your immediate superior or the superior the above that does not support, then it's no go.
And definitely, for example, in my hospital, my my big boss has already said no staff allowed to go into Gaza because you may die and we will lose 1 staff. So not allowed to. So it's really depends on your head of department or ketua jabatan and pengarah. So usually there's 2 layers.
In the missions that we have sent, any public servants or all private? In the 4 missions so far?
We do. We have. You mean the KKM hospital?
Yeah. I mean,
which donor?
Siapa?
My Unisa.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay.
University.
University.
Yeah. Okay. So originally it was shorter. The mission was 3 weeks, but now it's extended to 4 to 6 weeks.
So it can happen, provided your superior. Because we had an example in your team, employee in UNISA.
Do we have any other questions from the audience? Yes.
Maybe online.
Okay, so good evening. My name is Nur Atira. I'm a student. So I think I want to ask as a point of view as a belia, a youth. So maybe I can saw that my surrounding that ada yang semangat but maybe like scared. Ada berinisiatif but maybe only period of time. Even that short of time. Even during waktu yang just singkat, ada yang still tidak tahu, still tidak memberi kisah. So maybe I want like hear your advice, your expectation, or maybe your message to the youth, because this youth in the future will become doctors, will become the specialists or any expertise. So maybe hopefully that maybe you had any message for them that maybe can boost their, maybe like can give their, maybe mereka akan akhirnya mau lebih memberi perhatian kepada misi kemanusiaan.
Jadi kita switch ke bahasa Malaysia. So Razi, Thomas nak jawab.
Maybe bahasa.
Bahasa.
Okay. Terima kasih for the question. I think ramai yang kat sini pernah dengar charity begins at home. Kan? So if you have that semangat, kalau ada semangat nak sukarelawan ke apa, start locally. If you focus terlalu jauh macam nak ke Gaza terus, Mungkin semangat tu sekejap je. Tapi bila you cannot fulfill that semangat nak ke Gaza tu, tak dapat ke Gaza, dia akan hilang. Thank you. Dia semangat akan hilang. Jadi start at home, start small. Katakanlah you memang suka buat kerja sukarelawan, offer yourself within your community dulu. Lepas tu, you take another step forward. Keep the fire burning inside you rather than nak pergi Gaza, tak dapat pergi Gaza. So, the fire will burn. So, start small. Just start. Whatever it is, just start je. Cuba dulu and then see if this is something yang you really nak buat. Sukarelawan ni, is it for you? We are not asking everybody to jadi sukarelawan. Ada yang suka, ada yang tak suka. So, test the water. Cuba. Kan? But you have to start. Don't just berangan-angan, but start. Do something.
Coming to that, ingat Syekh Sofian? Syekh, Imam. Bila kita orang sampai, few days after that, I rapat dengan dia lah. Dia tanya apa tau? Why you come to Gaza, brother? Kita cakap lah nak tolong. But why you come? Helping my Muslim brother. No, that is wrong. Why you come? Kita kata kita nak tolong.
Syekh Sofian in Gaza lah tu.
Gaza. He keep saying, wrong. That is not what the Islam said. You know what Islam said? Help your neighbor before you help someone far away. This is someone from Gaza who told me off. Dia tanya I, sebelum datang, have you checked your neighbor? Have you checked your parents? Have you checked your relative before you come to Gaza? So dia basically dia cuba bagi tauladan, look what happened to us in Gaza. Our own neighbors are not helping us. Imagine your house on fire and the next thing what happened, your neighbor lock the door, referring to Rafah lah. So dia cerita simple je. Sebelum nak tolong orang jauh-jauh, help people around you. Very much like what Mas said, but this being told to us of all place in Gaza.
I think recently ada keluar Rafidah Aziz ya. Dia cakap dekat sebab Perdana Menteri kita kata nak hantar pertolongan kepada Gaza, duit dan juga bina hospital semua kan. Lepas tu ada ahli politik yang kata mengapa nak tolong jauh sangat? Tolong kat Malaysia pun ramai orang tak ada rumah, ramai orang yang kena banjir semua. So ini selalu saya sebagai sukarelawan MERCY Malaysia, orang selalu cakap kera di hutan disusukan, mati anak di rumah mati kelaparan. Okay, jadi kena balance sikit. Jadi saya kalau share, saya akan share banjir kat Sarawak, lepas tu baru saya share pasal Gaza. Sebab kalau tak orang akan cakap, oh kenapa nak tolong orang jauh saja. So message kepada youth, kepada golongan muda ialah tolong kalau nak buat charity, tolong cuba start daripada kejiranan atau kawasan di sekolah ke komuniti di sekolah, lepas tu baru pergi antarabangsa. Terima kasih. Ada soalan-soalan lain? Siapa lagi? Saya ada lagi dua sukarelawan yang pernah pergi Gaza. Ada ke Dr. Mafiz nak cakap
Mafiz atau Prof. Faisham?
Ataupun Dr. Faisham. Mafiz.
Bagi je dia mikrofon.
Mafiz sepatutnya akan masuk semula, tetapi kita tengok dulu bagaimana keadaan.
Dia one of the common question orang tanya lah, okay lah, kalau tak boleh masuk Gaza macam mana kita boleh bantu? Ada these two fundraising example I nak share lah. Very unique. Masa I kerja MERCY 2009, I was called by sekolah rendah jenis kebahasaan Cina kat Sentul untuk collect fund untuk Gaza. This is sekolah rendah tau. They collected RM12,000 for MERCY. And then bila kita tanya, kita ingatkan ni mesti anak orang kaya semua. And they said, the kids every Wednesday dia orang tak makan, duit lunch tu dia masuk tabung for 3 months. So kenapa kita adult tak boleh fikir every month I will skip my one meal, RM5 tu masuk tabung untuk Gaza. Dulu company Touch and Go buat, so I tak tahu sekarang macam mana. And then there was another one dekat international Islamic Museum tu, kita buat auction lukisan dari Gaza. We expected to collect 20,000, we ended up 250,000. Sebab tukang lelong tu pandai lah gorengkan bla bla bla, so value semua naik lah. But the challenge is to turn the figures into numbers, to turn the figures into values. You are university ada 20,000 student. Tak boleh ke 20,000 student tu, katalah half of the student 10,000 contribute RM1 a month. Dah jadi 10,000. It is too difficult. Or even 50 cents a month. So that's the question.
Okay. So thank you very much then to Radzi. So I think it's already 4:10. We are at the end of the podcast session, Q&A. So I would like to say thank you to Dr. Shahridan, to Radzi Jamaludin and also Masniza Mustafa. Thank you so much. So we will end the podcast now.
Thank you.